I'm Hannah.
And I'm Alec from Scruff Studios, and welcome back to another Newlyweds Talk. I think this is the fourth one, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the topic we have today, because last time was living with family, it's going to be living together now and how we got to cope with that. Because this is a whole other ball game than living with family or living by yourself.
So I'm going to preface this. He's picky.
Very picky.
I'm not.
Yep. Well, yeah, per se.
Okay.
For food, she's pickier than I am.
Yeah. For food, definitely, but...
Yeah, you don't eat anything.
Living, hey.
I'll tell you, it's the hardest thing to cook for this lady. She's like, yeah, just make it the most basic thing in the world.
Though.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but like I can make food. And she's like, give me a bun and a patty. And don't touch the patty. Don't look at the patty wrong. Don't even smell it because then it'll taste bad. And I'm like, but do you want like...
At least I touch cheese now.
She has an issue with cheese.
We'll talk about our quirks later. Oh no, this is going to be about our quirks, huh? Okay.
It's kind of about our quirks.
But when it comes to like living and having a rhythm, he had way more of a rhythm than I did. So yep. I'm more like... I built mine
over a long period of time because my mother was on that strict side more than the like flexible side. Is that a better way to put it?
I guess kind of like you get these things done, and then also you lived on your own. Well, on your own for a while too, and so you had your own space. And even when you were a kid, you had your own room for a while, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I grew up
mainly because
always sharing a room.
I'm the youngest, so most of my family moved out. And the only boy. Which also helped in the long run. Even though sometimes I lived in places that wasn't an actual room. It was just like, here's an open place. If you turn the corner, you're in the room. If you don't turn the corner, you're not in the room. Ha-ha! And I'm like, well, then, okay. Don't come in, I'm changing.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I always shared a room. My entire life, I've always shared a room, and
yet she still doesn't know how to live with someone.
Well,
she's really bad at it. I'll tell you, her room before.
Oh, my room was terrible.
Her room before, literally, you could jump down and you wouldn't probably touch the ground for like 30 years of digging.
So my room was really bad.
It was terrible.
The most time
I ever spent
in my room was when I was really young. So when I got to about the age of 12, I'm thinking. I spent less and less and less time in my room. And as I got older, I spent even less time in my room. And I didn't like cleaning as a child.
And her mom never actually made her clean. Well, so she kind of just grew up not doing it.
It would just be like one cleaning day. We'd get everything clean. And then I would just play with toys and knock stuff all over the place.
So I'd get dirty again right away.
So I lived in a very messy room, but as I got older, I started avoiding it more. So it still didn't get clean, but I didn't really live in it. I just slept in there. So it wasn't that awesome. But, so for us, living together.
It's awful. I like my side to be pretty clean, as clean as possible. And then her stuff bleeds into mine.
Okay, yes,
and then it ends up terrible because I'm like, okay, where the frick did this come from? Where did the dirty clothes go, Hannah? On the floor?
I have gotten better.
Well, in the sink? No. In the bathtub? No.
We don't even have a bathtub.
You're right. Shower. They go where?
Okay, but also, he likes to just take off his dirty clothes and they'll be on the floor for a few days and then he picks them up.
That is a lie. I do it right away.
No.
Almost every time.
You have left them on the floor for a few days.
Yeah, because I have my one dirty clothes spot, and that's it. Because we don't have an actual hamper.
I think I have gotten better.
She's gotten better because I've been kind of picky about it.
And also, I mean, like he gets really overwhelmed if the room's too dirty. So
yeah,
it's
it gets to that
point
where I can't even clean because it's so dirty because I don't know what to do with anything. Like when we were trying to pack all of our stuff,
our room got so full because we didn't bleed out. We just decided to stay in our little room.
That's all we had. We only had our room to try and pack and everything. And we ended up doing like 15, 16 totes out of all the stuff that we packed into one room, which is a lot.
Which is amazing.
Which honestly, I was kind of impressed that we made it feel open for how we did that, you know? And it was just so bad. It was super, super full of stuff to the point where it was like, if I'm sitting in my chair, I can't turn. And if I want to get to the bed, I have one path to get to the bed, and then you're only on the bed.
So we have, or at least I have learned I have had to learn, and I'm still learning how to be more on top of things when it comes to cleaning our room.
We'll get there.
We're working on it. But you know what? Our room is actually in a pretty good place right now.
Because we literally only have this much stuff out of this much stuff that she had before.
True.
So it's a lot easier to not get so much stuff around if you don't have it to put it around.
Keep in mind, so we were living in one room, and we had all of the gifts that we got from our wedding in that room. And so the majority,
we had everything. Everything that was at least everything that was mine, I had in there.
Gifts.
Half of hers was in there. Half of it was at her parents' house.
The stuff that I chose to live with was there, and then the other stuff that needed to just be packed away was at my parents'. Mm-hmm. But we had things that were supposed to be in a kitchen in our bedroom. Like, there were some things that didn't need to be in our bedroom. Well, if we lived in a full house, they wouldn't need to be in our bedroom. But
like, who's gonna use a KitchenAid in bed? Gonna make some brownies today, baby.
Bouncing on the mattress, baby.
We also had a Bosch, and that's pretty cool. But it's still, where are you gonna stick that? Like, it has those little squishy things, but it's not strong enough to stick it on the side of the wall or something. You know, like.
But so that was one thing. So cleaning. I've had to learn more how to be more on top of that stuff. Yeah,
because cleanliness levels for both of us are not the same.
Mm-hmm. So
I grew up in a place where I liked it to be clean. Obviously, my parents have a lot of stuff, but at least it was like kept orderly, you know? Not that theirs wasn't orderly per se, but every one of their rooms is not orderly.
It's organized chaos.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But you know what? It's a process. And I mean, when you're in a small space with a lot of stuff, things get crowded easily. So you just gotta be mindful of how you want to do stuff. Because you can make it work. We obviously made it work. We had one room with our kitchen stuff, our bedroom stuff, our bathroom stuff, our film stuff, everything.
Keep in mind that she had the job where she went somewhere, and I was the one working from home. So every time I'd want to get away and do something, and if something was dirty, I would like deep clean almost everything in that place, which means I kept things clean. If I just left it for her, there would be nothing clean. There was actually like 2 weeks that I went without cleaning, and the mess went from like zip to like 60%, and nothing happened.
Yeah, so I've definitely had to learn. I'm learning how to be better, guys, I promise.
Well, now that she's got a call in the middle of our stuff, she doesn't know how to shut it up.
Freak?
Make it go away.
It wasn't even going.
Hey, telemarketers!
It didn't even happen on my watch, guys. What's the point of a watch if it doesn't buzz when I have a call?
I love how she knows I'm a videographer, and every time we're supposed to be doing something with film, you're supposed to turn your phone on silent or off completely, and she still hasn't figured that out.
Give me a second. I just didn't do it this time because last time was fine.
Well, yeah, but it still buzzed.
True.
And I just didn't say anything about it last time. This is also another thing, living with each other. You think someone would be able to read your mind eventually, but it's not. It's kind of hard to be able to be like, hey, this is what I expected forever ago. How do you still not understand it?
You have to remember that if you're a newlywed, you guys are not going to get everything down right away. That's not how it works. Sadly.
Nah, I even know of like 10-year long people or more for marriage.
And they're
still have stuff to figure out, you know?
And that's fine, right? Like, you're people. And that's what people do. People are constantly learning and figuring things out. Obviously, if you're not putting any effort into it, that's not okay. But, like, you just...
Debatable.
Marriage, a lot of it is you're going to be working together, you're going to be working with each other, and you'll have to be patient. And you also have to forgive a lot. But also, there's going to be a lot of room for fun and joy and happiness.
Well, I mean, as long as your goods outweigh your bads, then usually it'll be a pretty good relationship for the most part. Because you can have your bad days, you can have your good days, you can have your bad weeks, bad years. As long as you guys get back together and make stuff work, then you'll be fine.
I saw a quote that said, "A perfect marriage is two imperfect people always choosing to never give up on each other," or something like that. I paraphrased it, but it was like, always choosing to never give up.
There's also something my mom used to do all the time, and I think it bled down into like siblings or whatever, I don't know, but she always used to say to my dad, "I am choosing to love you today." Not that I want to, but I am choosing to.
You know what? I think, a lot of your marriage is going to be unconditionally loving each other, and then a lot of your marriage is gonna be like that. It's gonna be like, you know what? I'm making that decision. Because I know you're worth it, even if you're having those hard days. Because, I mean, like that cleaning stuff, that'll agitate him like crazy, but he still lives with me, and I'm working on it.
She's getting a little bit better, and eventually we'll get there, but as of right now, we are still new, and I gotta keep in mind that we got stuff to work on.
Yeah. And I have to
He's
remember...
got stuff to work on.
And I have to remember that he's not as flexible as I am. Like, I
don't stretch.
He's not, like, I mean, he's chill, and he's a fun guy to be around.
I don't stretch. I work on muscle growth, so it's kind of hard to be flexible when you're working on muscle growth. But, I mean, if you look at me, I'm not naturally big. So being flexible in ways is kind of hard.
Yeah. But exactly. Well, that's exactly, like, I mean, he has his particularities. He has his particularities. Is that even a word?
It is now.
He has his particularities, his things that he's so used to doing. And so even though I'm flexible, I shouldn't just expect him to be as flexible as I am and be okay with anything.
Well, like I said, I grew up in kind of more of a strict standpoint. I grew up in, like, with discipline, you know?
You do it.
I grew up in a way that it's like, it should be done this way. And it is hard to get off of stuff like that because with, like, a Latina mother, it gets a little, it gets a little wild sometimes. If you don't get it, then, you know, you might get smacked. You're going to get grounded for a while, you know? You stick to what you're supposed to be sticking to. So coming from that kind of background to someone that literally didn't even have to clean if she didn't want to, and she didn't have to eat anything if she didn't want to, that she didn't want to eat. It gets really annoying for me specifically.
They were tired by the time they got to me.
She's also the youngest. Yeah.
I am the youngest of 6 kids, and I had a very strong will compared to my parents. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't get consequences for certain things or that I didn't have to do anything that I didn't want to. I definitely had to do things that I didn't want to. But I think I just made my mom tired.
I can see that. Hannah seemed like a bit of a handful, so...
I was very much a person where it's like, well, I want that, so I'm going for it. But also kind of like I don't know how to describe myself, but I did not grow up the same way that he did. Definitely not. It was a very, very different upbringing. And so we have to learn how to meld this rock to this mud. Am I mud or am I water?
I guess you're mud because I've put some dirt into you.
Yeah, probably. So it's interesting. You guys, you have to figure out because you can't just go into a marriage expecting that everything's going to work together just because your dating life is great. You can't.
You've got to find a steady balance, and it's really hard to find a balance, especially when you come from very opposite standpoints.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so, like, that should be something that you talk about as a couple. It's okay to sit down and be like, okay, so what is your morning routine? What is your routine for this? What do you usually like with this? Because I know that I know all of this stuff about you, but I don't actually know how it works. You're not going to know how it is until you live together. That is the thing,
because dating someone is going to be a lot different than marriage and living with someone. Because, like, dating, you can always leave and you don't see the full shebang, I guess. You don't see how they poop. You don't see how they shower themselves. You don't see...
Sometimes you don't see what they look like without makeup. Like...
I mean, that one's a hard one. I'd hope you know that before you started living with someone.
Yeah, and I hope... If you're someone who wears makeup all the time, that you're comfortable enough to be around that person without makeup. Because I know, like, I've heard stories about friends and, like, friends of family or something like that. Like, this woman, she went for, like, years into their marriage without him ever seeing her without makeup. She'd go to bed late and she'd get up really early before he got up to put her makeup on. Don't torture yourself like that. Be comfortable with each other. Choose to be comfortable with each other. And... you know, there's some things that you're going to just be able to easily, like, meld in together, be like, okay, yeah, we can do it this way. And some things that you're just going to have to compromise with the other person. Like,
Like food.
Like food.
I like to cook and I like to try and cook. I'm more of a baker per se, actually. And it's easy for her to eat sweets because sweets are always good. So baking is great, but anytime I try and make real food, half the time she's like, I don't like that. I don't like that. So I have to try and work it around her pickiness.
And then
which is weird because I'm the one that has food allergies and I'm the one that like can't eat a lot of things, but yet I have to work around her.
But the thing is, then that means I also have to step out of my comfort zone and be willing to try new things, which I have. I think you've done a really good job, actually, at making me try new foods. Like, I didn't eat beans, guys. I didn't eat beans ever.
Nope. But we finally made, like, taco soup and chili and stuff. And
beans are great. They taste great. I love them. I grew up hating cheese.
She has a cheeseophobia, not just hating cheese. I
think it's called pterophobia or pterophobia, something like that.
I'm just calling it cheeseophobia because it makes more sense.
But like
here's how cheeseophobia works. Cheeseophobia, you gotta be scared of cheese. You can't look at it, you can't smell it, but if it's melted on pizza, apparently that makes it okay. But now if you get a slice of cheese and you put it in front of a door, she's stuck in that room forever. Because that makes sense, right?
It's ridiculous. I didn't like touching regular raw cheese. I didn't like touching it. I didn't like it on me. I didn't like it around me. But when it was melted onto things, there was pizza, there was nachos. I'd eat cheese toast and stuff like that. Or enchiladas sometimes. Like if there was cheese melted enchiladas, if there wasn't a lot, I could eat it. But it was ridiculous.
I gotta say, it's the weirdest phobia thing I've ever heard of or seen in my life.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know if anyone else has that problem, but if you have it, you can get over it, I promise. Now the whole
internet has blackmail on me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, everyone mail us cheese.
I've gotten way better, though.
Mail it, though. You can't, airship it or something because I want it to be moldy when it gets here.
Ew. That's just gross for everybody.
I'm going to put it on her pillow.
Put it on yours. Infect the entire bed, then. You can wash it. Honestly, mold doesn't bother me as much as cheese does.
I've accidentally eaten a lot of mold.
Mold is gross. But that's not the topic. Okay. But you have to work around peculiar things like that. So, with his food, he'd have to realize, okay, she legitimately doesn't like that, or she's just being picky, so I have to figure out how to get her to eat it, or I'm going to make it my way and she can do her own thing, or something like that.
There actually was a compromise that we did, where if I made something brand new, she'd at least have to try it once. Mm-hmm. Where it did work out for a little while. I mean, she ended up trying new things, and some things actually worked out. Some things obviously didn't. But it did end up getting her more branched out into other parts of the food lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily those people that are still salad eaters and everything. So at least we have one thing in common.
Yeah.
Salad is gross.
Yeah. Lettuce can be on certain things like burgers or BLTs or something like that, but...
Not by itself. Has to have some kind of meat.
But then that's another thing. You find things that you also agree on. And hopefully you have a lot of things that you have in common. But, I mean, you're going to have your differences. I want to talk about something, sleeping together. Okay.
So, here's the thing. I have this, sensory overload kind of stuff if I get touched for too long. You know? I'm sure there's other people out there that are the same. I've heard of people that have the same thing. But it makes sleeping together really hard for me specifically because she's very much a cuddler and she likes to touch.
I'm a touchy person.
Her love language is touch. And mine can border on touch, but it can also just border on quality time and stuff like that. But anytime we sleep, for me, if someone moves, I'm an extremely light sleeper. If there is too much light in the room, I will be awake. If someone else moves in the bed or moves in the room, I will be awake. If there's too much noise, I will be awake. That's just how I am. I grew up paranoid, so I guess that's just how it ended up.
He has to sleep in a cave in order to sleep.
Pretty much.
Through the night.
Pretty much. Fully through the night, anyway. But when introducing someone else into there, I'm having to get more used to movement, having to get used to random bumping into each other and everything, you know. But I still have that, where it's fine that she's in the same bed, but I have one long pillow on the opposite side and then one really short pillow on that, on the other side. So we have
this kind of barrier so I don't roll into him or he doesn't roll into me and wake himself up.
It's a weird way to do it, but it does actually help me per se. And like we're still in the same bed, which is a lot better than I've seen for a lot of other couples, which just split up completely. One's on the couch or they just have 2 separate rooms. Which I'd prefer not to do, not unless there's like a lot of anger or something. But even then, usually we still sleep in the same bed.
We talked about that a little bit before we got married. We were like, you know what? Let's just always try, even if we're angry at each other, let's always try and come back to the same bed. Even if you're still a little mad, like, let's always try to come back together at the end of the day. Because
even if we don't fix anything, at least sleeping in the same bed usually helps loosen the tension a little bit.
And then I think that opens up a gateway to us actually confronting problems or things like that if we have them, you know. But also, like, I have to something that I had to realize just right off the bat when we were sleeping together, just because he's not touching me or cuddling with me doesn't mean he doesn't want me in his bed. That doesn't mean he doesn't love me or anything like that.
And there is times where, like, even I put myself kind of in another situation where it's like, you know what, I will give some cuddling time today, even if I really can't stand it, because I know that she needs it. You know, sometimes obviously you're going to have to do something that you might not necessarily want to do during the time, but it's for the other person, so you'll feel better with doing it and making them happy as well, right? So that's me and like cuddling. Like every now and again, we will go to bed by watching something. And I say, you know, while we're watching something, you can come and cuddle. That's fine. But then after it's done and we go to bed, you go back to your side. I'll put my barrier down. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't breathe in my direction. But usually it helps a lot because there are people that do have that touch and affection that they need. And if you don't give it to them, then it does get kind of hard for them to run it just as much as it's like, if you don't give me my space, then I don't know how to handle you. You know, there's things that you got to really compromise with, especially when you're fully living with someone else and like you're tied into it now. We have a knot. We can't get away from each other.
We made a choice.
So
I think I loved something. I think this is what my mom told me. But she said marriage is a relationship of giving and receiving. It's not of give and take, or not just take from each other. So you make you make those decisions to give to each other, and you also make that decision to receive what that person gives you. You know, you don't just say, I don't really want that today. You can't just bat them to the side. You live with them.
It is. Right? It's really easy to say as well, and a lot harder to actually do. But I've noticed that if you actually do it once in a while, you're usually going to be able to fix yourself a little bit. Because there was just not too long ago that we actually had a fight.
We did.
And like I spent my own time away that I needed to, and it ended up bleeding into the next day. And if I didn't put aside my pride for a little while, it probably would have still been going on till today. But I figured I'd stop it for a little while. I'd go over, I'd give her a hug, and I'd hold her for a little while. And then it started to, just the hug right there was able to help get things a little bit looser, get things a little bit more into that kind of just retry stage. Let's retry it again and go again. Because I don't think anything is over. Like we said earlier, marriage is not going to be perfect. It is going to be a lot of trial and error.
A lot of forgiveness. A lot of restarts.
So if you are willing to put in that effort to try and make it happen again, happen better, or at least just to start right back at square one, then do it. It's better than completely breaking it off. Because you might end up completely regretting your thing later, and then you get into drugs, you get into alcohol, you get into something else that it's probably going to be so much worse for you than a simple fight with your spouse.
And I mean, even in that moment, I had to accept that he was finally putting down those walls and coming to me, right? Instead of just being angry that he was angry. Like, I could have easily been like, no, don't touch me, or I don't deserve your affection right now, or anything like that. But if I had done that, that wouldn't have helped anything. So if you take those moments to just accept each other, especially during a hard time, I think things are going to go so much better for you. They're going to go really well. Or at least that's a step that you can take to bettering things. And so, yeah.
Now there's some times where you just want to be like, nah.
Be like, you know what?
We're
Whatever.
like, I hate everything. If you breathe in my direction, you may not have food tonight.
And you know what? There are days like that, and maybe both of you feel that way, or just one of you is that way. And you're just gonna have to deal with it. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
Because moody happens all the time. I mean, especially when the woman's through a cycle, there's moody. And then sometimes, I honestly think like testosterone and menstrual cycles, when they mix together and they sync, then that's probably the worst time that you can have together.
We figured out when we started dating, his hormones started syncing up with mine when I was on my period. Like,
so it was
so
a wild
we
ride.
would both be moody at the same time.
We definitely
both need comfort and affection from each other, but we were angry at each other.
So it was really hard to make that work for a while. But now that we know that it's happening, it's a little bit easier for us to be like, you know what? Screw my feelings for a little while. I'll go and help. And then as soon as I can help, it'll probably soften my moodiness and my anger.
Or be like, you know what? I actually don't need to be mad right now. It's fine. He's okay. I'll be okay. Like, I'm gonna go help him. It's gonna be okay. Like, that's what living together is. Living together is this constant ebb and flow of giving to each other, receiving, figuring things out, and arguing, and then having fun times, making up, forgiving. Like, it's this constant flow of all of those things.
And it might get easier and it might not be. Obviously, we're not entirely sure yet. And eventually, speaking of which, we are actually going to be trying to bring in a few people. I don't know how soon, but hopefully within the next few episodes, we're going to be bringing some people in to kind of talk about their story and talk about some of the bigger problems that they've had to face and how they got over them. So if you guys are somewhere around, or if you guys are interested in trying to be part of that, you can either send us something over, like kind of like a story or something you want us to tell, or if you are nearby, we'll just invite you over and we'll have you be part of our show, I guess.
Yeah.
And hopefully all of us together can kind of help out the new generation on how to be a little bit more aware of marriage in this new generation and millennium and all this stuff, because there's so much differences now than it was before, and
times are changing, and
times are definitely changing. I mean, it's going to be hard, but it'll be really good, especially to finally change the flow of how the world is going now and still stick with your partner. So but I think that's all we have time for today, and we're probably going to just leave it there. I don't know if we'll come back to this subject, because I think we talked about pretty much most of it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we talked about a lot of it. I'm sure that we'll mention a few things very similar to the subject, if not this subject, in other videos. But because, I mean, living together is a constant thing, at least for us right now. So but this is probably the most we'll talk about this subject, unless you have a specific question or something that you want talked about on here. Please leave us a comment, or give us an email.
Do something of that sort. Speaking of emails, email us. And, like, comment, subscribe.
All that stuff. And check out
Scruff Studios or the merch store?
Both.
Yeah, okay. So Scruff Studios is our other YouTube channel. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and check that out. And we also have a merch store, which we'll have links in the description below. But we've said that 1,000 times, so you should know where it's at by now, and hopefully you've checked it. But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we're glad you were able to watch it with us. So all in all, you guys go ahead and have a fantastic day.